The most dangerous business podcast in the world. Entrepreneurs and ambitious people, if you want to build a powerful, profitable, impactful business, if you want to study and fall in love with the process, if you want to acquire the skills, habits, and determination you need to level up in business and in life, that's fantastic because I'm working on the same thing. This is the Game of Grow movement. Welcome back. You are now listening to the Game of Grow podcast, and I'm your host, Moya Okome. This is episode number 16 of the most dangerous business podcast in the world. It doesn't matter where you start or where you are right now. Are you willing to take the challenge and grow? We're now across 25,000 downloads, so let's take a second to celebrate that milestone. All right, that was a second. Thank you guys for sharing the show, making that happen. Now let's move on to the review of the week. We actually have 100 of those reviews right now, so I'm also very proud of that. And this week's review of the week comes from my man Abasi2, who says, "Was Charles Barkley right? Role model? Question mark, question mark, question mark. 5-star review. When your mother said that she doesn't have a role model, wow and wow. That hit me to the core of my soul within the depths of my spirit. So many people waste time ignoring their mirror, looking for external inspiration. Beyond the fact that she inspired me to write my first review ever, I truly feel that she should be in rotation as a guest of this podcast." Abasi, really appreciate you, brother. Definitely means a lot that you took the time, and we will definitely make that happen and bring mom back. So guys, please be like Abasi, subscribe, and leave an honest review. The biggest reason being that it helps me know what's working and what's not working for you, so we can have a better, more valuable, more enjoyable show. On to the episode. I want to shout out Calvin from the Game of Grow community on Facebook. Feel free to join us in there anytime. Calvin asked the question, how do you get past doubt in the initial phase of entrepreneurship? And I love this, so let's do more of this. What better way to make sure that the episodes are valuable than to get the topics directly from you? So shoot me a DM at Game of Grow on Instagram, and let's see if we can feature your question in the very near future. Doubt. Let's talk about it. We all face doubt at the beginning, and to be perfectly honest, at least from my personal experience, it never completely goes away. But that doesn't mean that it has to stop us from setting big goals and accomplishing them. It's more about how to acknowledge that we're going to have those doubts and figure out ways to move forward anyway. It's something that you're going to get better at over time. To share a quick story about this. We love stories, right? Stories make it real. This is the Game of Grow. So to share this story, when I began my first truly successful foray into entrepreneurship, at least successful by my standards, we're not talking Robert Smith levels of success here. Big shout out to Robert Smith. I wouldn't even say for this first attempt, this first foray, I really had any doubts about it. If we're being honest, I had very few expectations at all. And that probably took a lot of pressure off and prevented too much doubt from creeping in. How can you really have doubt if you have no expectations of what might happen or what might not happen? At that point, you just kind of do the thing and whatever happens, happens. So to take you back to the story, which I've kind of tackled from numerous episodes in the past on this podcast, episodes 1 through 5, number 10, 11, 13, I think. I first got into the app game at a time when I was extremely dissatisfied with my job. And in the beginning, more than anything, I was really just looking for a positive outlet and to learn something new. Yes, I was also in search of a new job and any possible escape at this time. But for me at the time, the app business, it represented the chance to learn something new and do something fun. Sure, I did see the possibilities. I did see that other people were succeeding big time. And those people included the mentor that I learned from. But what I really, really wanted was to learn something new, to learn it well, to put it into action, and to prove to myself that I was capable of doing so. If you remember, or if you're hearing this for the first time, when I discovered this guy, and I followed his story for a few months, I saw that he was coming up with apps and then creating them with the help of overseas developers, and then bringing them to market, and then he would make a recurring profit on them. I saw with my own eyes over a relatively long period of time, and it all made sense. I saw a lot of the numbers, I saw the process behind it and the work that went into it. I also saw that Yeah, he was more seasoned than me as an entrepreneur, but as my mom or my grandma before her would say, he did not have two heads. He wasn't doing this based on some out of reach credentials. He wasn't like an astrophysicist, rocket scientist, or something like that. He wasn't spending ridiculous amounts of money that I couldn't come up with. And so this all made it seem more possible. If he could do it, why couldn't I achieve similar results so long as I understood the same process and was willing to put in similar effort into it over a long enough period of time? So, boom, with that, we're already up to two very practical and tangible things you can start doing this week to mitigate doubt so that you can move forward more effectively. So, to recap, number one, rather than creating any expectation around the outcome, you want to focus all your energy and joy in seeing how good you can get at the actual process and skills necessary to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And I should say here, if it's not obvious, it's going to be a lot easier to do this if the business you're trying to go after is in an area that you actually at least have an interest in. Because you should expect that it's going to take time to actually become good at the process. And then, number two, you want to get around people who've done what you want to accomplish at a high level, or at least something close to it. These people might be mentors, they might be peers, it might be a blog, a podcast, a book, a course, in-person event, mastermind group, or more likely it'll be some combination of the above, and maybe even some other methods. But you want to get around these people not only so you can learn the practical steps of how to do the thing that you need to do to get to your goal, but also so that your mind can start to normalize it and it can just become more possible, seem more possible. And when it seems more possible, you're going to be a lot more willing to stick with it and put in the work necessary to become good enough to get the outcome that you want because you actually believe that you can do it. And I would be completely remiss if I didn't mention the flip side of that. So number three, the same way we want to be around go-getters that have done the things and are doing the things that we want to do, we want to get the hell away from naysayers and negative-minded people who will try to convince you that for whatever reason, what you want to accomplish cannot be done. And listen, I'm not saying that these are bad people. They don't necessarily have to be. They most likely aren't. But what I am saying is that the way that they think at this present time, for whatever reason they think that way, is simply not going to be helpful for you when it comes to moving past the doubts and executing on your vision to make it a reality and succeed in entrepreneurship. Case in point, let me read to you a recent DM I got on Facebook from a Facebook friend. This is not a very close friend of mine, but we've known each other for years now, and we are connected. And I had nothing against dude at all. He's a nice enough guy. This was from a couple weeks ago when Noir, you've heard about this app if you've been listening for a while, but we talked about it in episode number 11 and 13. So this was from a couple weeks ago when Noir initially dropped. So he says, "Who's Henry Heisenberg? LOL." And I responded, "It's one of my LLCs. I must have been watching Breaking Bad at the time because Heisenberg is a character from Breaking Bad." And I responded a couple days later after he first sent the DM. So he responds back to me, LOL. "Some people are going to think the creator of this is of another ethnicity and not patronize." So I actually closed this down and I hit him back a couple weeks later. And by this time, the app had accumulated several thousand downloads and 121 reviews and counting with a 4.8 star average. So clearly something is working with the app. So I responded, "I hear you, man. In practice, it doesn't seem to be a big deterrent. As an entrepreneur, a lot of times you have to move forward without things being perfect. Otherwise, you never move. And you just adjust along the way." So, in short, I try to stay far away from that shit and that kind of mentality. I just try to push it away. Like I said, I have nothing at all against this guy, and it's probably not his fault. I have no idea what he's been through to this point that makes him think that way. I even have empathy for it. And I also believe he can change over time if he wants to, and I do believe he does. But as someone trying to achieve things that are hard, you have to protect your own mindset and give yourself the best opportunity to win. You see, my mind can do a plenty good enough job of introducing doubt on its own without taking on someone else's insecurities that they may have for whatever reason. So we want to surround ourselves with the people who've done what we want to do before, who will help us to know that it's possible. And we want to try to limit our exposure to those people who just can't seem to help themselves and want to convince us of the opposite, no matter how innocuous it might be. And I hope I don't sound too harsh, but I'll be honest with you that I don't really care. It's the truth. Also, I'll be honest with you. Facebook Messenger is a terrible way to reach me if you want to reach me. I really don't like it, and you may not hear from me for quite a while if that's how you choose to hit me up. That's also the truth. And I could give you more examples of this type of behavior, this type of mentality, but it's late, so let's keep it moving, save that for a later episode. On to method number 4, how we're going to move past doubt. And I'll share another from the Color Noir story. Here, this comes from one of my favorite reviews for Color Noir. And to give you guys some backstory and some perspective, we created this app. Just imagine growing up and living in a world where the default is just not created for you. And to give some examples, you have dolls. By default, most dolls are going to be Caucasian. They're going to be white. On television, in the movies, most people in America are the lead roles, the lead characters, the lead actors. They're going to be white. Things focus on white stories. Think about Friends, Conan O'Brien, Jay Leno. I can really go on and on with this type of thing. I think I saw a recent study or story in the news that self-driving cars are more likely to actually hit black people, hit African Americans, because the default, again, is Caucasian, right? The same thing with when you wash your hands in the automated sinks. By default, they're not made to recognize black or brown skin. The default, again, is Caucasian. So when we set out to make Color Noir, our coloring book app, we wanted to celebrate black people and black culture because we're just so often not celebrated. And I can perfectly understand if you're outside of this culture, you're outside of these people, you might not understand why that would be a problem, but hopefully some of the examples that I've kind of illustrated help to show why it would be. So anyway, getting back to the review. This review says, yes! Exclamation, exclamation. Finally, a coloring book that complements us. This is long overdue. My girls are really enjoying this, and my daughter says to me, oh wow, mommy, the girl has an afro like me. Worth every dime. And of course, I had to respond, thank you so much. And this is exactly why we're doing it. There's a real problem here that we're solving with Color Noir, and we know that it has to be solved and that it will make a difference. And this should be the same for you, for anything you do. I don't care what it is. If you can find a powerful why and you know what problem you're solving and what it means to the people you're trying to solve it for, it's going to give you all the fuel you need to keep going and push through those doubts whenever they creep up. If you don't have a reason that is powerful enough and important enough to you, it's just going to be a lot harder to keep on moving when things start to get challenging or when they just aren't as exciting as when you started. Trust me, that's going to happen. To give you another example of that, with this show, Game of Grow, we're past that first initial burst where things are brand new and super novel. But what just keeps me going and putting in the hours of work into the show week in and week out is a conversation I'm having with you who's listening at this very moment. And knowing that something I say may help you with your mindset, with your strategy, or with your execution, maybe in some small way I can help you on your entrepreneurial journey. If I can do that for even one person, and hopefully for many more, for me that makes every single hour I put into this worthwhile. Finally, like I mentioned, it's late, so let's wrap this baby up with method number 5, which is speed. Some smart dude in some book somewhere, I think it was the 10X rule, he said something like, time is like oxygen for fear. And if you've ever been a young man trying to express your affections to a young lady that you care about, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. Or maybe it's just me who went through this, but I don't think so. But the longer you wait to say something to this young lady, the more you're going to psych yourself out and think of reasons to not make your move. And it's the same exact thing in entrepreneurship. So you want to completely choke the oxygen out of the whole deal and just move as quickly from idea to execution as possible. So fear and doubt, they don't have as much opportunity to creep in. So guys, to reiterate, number 1, Rather than creating any expectation around the outcome, just focus on acquiring the skill and on mastering your craft. Number 2, get around people who've done what you want to accomplish so that you can normalize it and feel that it's possible. Number 3, get away from people who want to convince you that it's not possible, or at least do yourself a favor and limit your exposure. Number 4, focus on the problem you're trying to solve and the people who you want to help. And finally, number 5, move with speed and deprive your fears and your doubts of oxygen. All right, guys, if you find this at all helpful, please make sure that you share it with someone else that it might help, because that's what we're here for, right? So that, of course, brings us to the question of the week, which is, how can I help you with your goals? And what do you want to hear more of or less of? You're listening right now, and I want to make sure that this show is helpful to you, even if it helps nobody else in the world. So let me know that. Leave a review in the podcast store. Let me know, or you can jump in the Game of Grow community on Facebook. All right, guys. And with that, I'll see you guys back here real soon on the Game of Grow podcast. Because remember, guys, it doesn't matter where you start or where you are right now. Are you willing to take the challenge and grow? DJ, drop that beat and take us out. Thank you for tuning in to the Game of Grow movement. If you'd like to hear more, head to gameofgrow.com to sign up for my weekly updates about my own journey as I create the powerful, profitable, and impactful business of my dreams. And I want to hear about your journey as well. And if you want to connect on social media, I'm at Game of Grow on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. On LinkedIn, just search for my name. Don't forget to join us in the Game of Grow community, which you can search for on Facebook. And if you love the show, the biggest way you can help is to subscribe, rate, and review, and then find a like-minded friend you can help to do the same. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.